So picture this for a moment. Imagine you're completely there, mentally sharp, full of thoughts, feelings, but you just can't get a single word out. It's like being locked inside yourself, watching the world, but completely unheard.
Yeah. That feeling of being locked in, it's a reality for people with conditions like, say, ALS or after a really bad brainstem stroke. It's incredibly isolating.
Truly heartbreaking. But what if we could create a sort of shortcut, a direct line from those thoughts right into spoken language?
Well, that's exactly the promise, isn't
Yeah.
it? The huge potential of brain-computer interfaces, or BCIs.
Right, BCIs. And what feels really significant right now is this push from the FDA. They've got this breakthrough device designation, and it seems like it's really adding some serious speed to development in this area.
Absolutely. And maybe we should just quickly clarify what a BCI is for anyone new to this. Think of your brain like this incredibly complex computer, right? Generating all these electrical signals. A BCI is basically trying to translate that neural activity. It listens in on the brain's electrical chatter and, well, converts it into something useful.
Like controlling a prosthetic.
Exactly. Or, and this is our focus today, actually generating speech. It's decoding the intention behind the brain signals.
Right. Important point. It's not mind reading. It's decoding signals related to intended actions, like speaking.
Yeah.
And how does it do that? With electrodes.
Yeah, exactly. Electrodes pick up the electrical activity. Now, you can have non-invasive ones, like caps worn on the scalp,
Uh-huh.
or you can have invasive ones implanted right into the brain tissue itself. Obviously, that gives a much clearer signal.
Or direct.
Much more direct. And then you need these really sophisticated algorithms, usually AI these days, to interpret those signal patterns and figure out what the person intends to do or, say.
And for someone who's lost their voice, I mean, this could just be completely revolutionary, couldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Think about the ways they communicate now. Eye tracking, maybe? It's often incredibly slow, really laborious.
Yeah, like trying to type out a message using, I don't know, an old 1800s typewriter.
That's a great analogy, actually. And BCIs, well, they hold the promise of something much closer to real-time conversation, like jumping from that typewriter straight to a smartphone.
Wow. That difference in speed and just ease.
Mm-hmm.
It must be life-altering for someone in that situation.
Completely. Which brings us back around to that FDA designation you mentioned, the breakthrough device designation.
Right. So what exactly is that? It sounds important.
It is. Think of it like a VIP pass for really crucial medical tech. It's a way for the FDA to fast-track the development and review process.
A fast lane? Okay.
Pretty much. They grant it to devices for serious, like life-threatening or irreversibly debilitating conditions, especially where there aren't great alternatives, or where the new device looks like a huge step up.
So it signals that the FDA sees a really urgent need.
Precisely. They're saying, okay, this looks promising. It addresses a critical gap. Let's help move this forward safely, but, quickly.
And we're seeing this applied to BCI specifically for speech.
We are. Several companies have received it. For instance, Paradromics. They got the designation back in May 2023 for their system, the Connexus Direct Data Interface.
And that's aimed directly at speech restoration.
Exactly, helping people who can't speak or type to communicate. Then there's Blackrock Neurotech. Their Move Again system got the designation even earlier, November 2021. It started more broadly, controlling devices with thought, but speech is a key application.
Okay.
And you mentioned Synchron too, right? With their stentrode.
Yeah, the stentrode. That one's interesting because it's less invasive, isn't it? It goes in through a blood vessel.
That's right, implanted near the brain, not directly in it. And they also received the breakthrough designation. It kind of highlights the different approaches being explored.
And I saw Neuralink also got one recently, September 2024, but for their blind sight implant for vision.
Correct. Not speech, but it definitely shows the broader momentum in the BCI field, The FDA is clearly recognizing the potential across different applications.
So what does this designation actually do for these companies? And more importantly, for the patients?
Good question. For the companies, it means more direct access to FDA experts, kind of like having them on speed dial. Their submissions get priority review. It just smooths out and speeds up that whole regulatory journey.
Which can be really long and complex otherwise.
Very long, yeah. So this helps streamline things.
And for the patients waiting for this technology.
Well, that's the crucial part. This accelerated timeline could potentially cut years off the development and approval process. Years.
Wow. So getting access to communication potentially much, much sooner.
Exactly. And when you're living in that silence we talked about, every single month counts. This program really injects, hope and urgency.
It's so easy to forget just how fundamental speech is, isn't it? Losing it isn't just about not being able to chat.
Oh, it's so much deeper. It's a profound disconnection from family, from expressing needs, from just participating. People describe it like being in a soundproof room, maybe with a broken megaphone. Utterly isolating.
And you think about diseases like ALS affecting millions. People often remain completely lucid mentally while their body fails. They're trapped.
Acutely aware of their inability to connect. It's devastating.
Which is why these BCI advancements, especially for speech, feel so incredibly important. I mean, look at the research coming out of places like UC Berkeley, UC San Francisco.
Right. That work, published in Nature Neuroscience, March 2025, I think it was, showing AI-based BCIs generating speech near real time and sounding, well, pretty natural.
That's just a massive leap, isn't it? From maybe blinking yes or no.
Exactly. Imagine going from that painstaking process to just being able to say, hey, could you pass the remote? Or, I love you.
Wow. It's not just about data transfer. It's restoring connection, self-expression.
Fundamentally human things.
So how does the science actually work? We mentioned electrodes picking up signals.
Right. So you capture those brain signals, either non-invasively with EEG caps on the scalp, or invasively with ECOG electrodes right on the brain surface, or even deeper implanted arrays.
And those signals reflect the intention to speak, even if the person physically can't anymore.
That's the key insight, yeah. Especially signals from the motor cortex, the part of the brain planning movements, including speech movements. Those signals are often still there.
Okay, so you capture the signals, then what? AI comes in.
Exactly. Sophisticated AI algorithms, particularly deep learning models like recurrent neural networks, RNNs, and LSTM models.
LSTM, long short-term memory.
That's the one. These models are good because they have a kind of memory. They can look at sequences of brain activity over time, which is crucial because speaking isn't just one signal, it unfolds, right?
Right, makes sense.
So these AI models learn to decode the patterns in those unfolding signals and translate them directly into audible speech.
And the speech quality, is it like perfect?
Not yet, generally. It can still sound a bit robotic sometimes. But the progress is incredibly fast. Researchers are constantly improving the algorithms to get more natural intonation, pacing, maybe even emotional tone eventually.
That's amazing. And you mentioned the different types of BCIs earlier, invasive, non-invasive.
Right, and that Synchron stentrode as a kind of middle ground. Invasive ones like Neuralink or Paradromics are developing, means surgery, electrodes in the brain. Best signal quality, but higher risk.
Surgery risks, yeah. Infection, tissue reaction.
Exactly. Non-invasive EEG caps. Much safer, no surgery. But the signal is weaker, fuzzier, because it has to get through your skull and scalp.
So a trade-off. Clarity versus invasiveness.
Precisely. And Synchron's approach, putting the device in a blood vessel near the brain, tries to balance that. Less invasive than open brain surgery, but maybe a better signal than scalp EEG. There are pros and cons to each.
And it's not just these companies with the breakthrough designation, is it? This field seems pretty active.
Oh, very active. Neuralink is obviously a huge name, even with their broader, maybe more ambitious goals. And you've got significant work happening internationally, too. Neuroscience in China, for example, they're doing clinical trials. It's definitely a dynamic space.
And the FDA seems to be trying to keep pace, not just with the breakthrough program.
Yeah, they seem quite proactive. Having people like David McMullen, who's a neurosurgeon, in a key role there helps. They're trying to foster innovation while ensuring safety.
Balancing speed and caution.
That's a tough balance. They've also put out specific guidance back in 2021 for implantable BCIs, setting the groundwork. And you see this reflected in the number of trials, I think, around 25 globally now. The field is moving.
But it's not all smooth sailing, right? There must be significant challenges still.
Oh, absolutely. We touched on the risks of invasive surgery infection, brain tissue damage. That's a big one.
And the electrodes themselves, do they last?
That's another key challenge. Some older designs, like the Utah array, these rigid, sharp electrodes could sometimes cause inflammation over time, which degrades the signal.
Not ideal.
Not at all. Newer, flexible electrodes look much more promising, but proving their long-term reliability, making sure they stay functional and safe inside the brain for years, that's still ongoing work.
And just decoding speech itself must be incredibly complex.
Immensely complex. The brain doesn't just flip a switch for each word. Speech involves intricate patterns across large brain areas. While the AI is getting better, accurately and naturally decoding that complex signal in real time is still a massive scientific hurdle.
Plus, there's the cost, I imagine. These are not going to be cheap.
Definitely not initially. The cost of the device, the surgery, the ongoing support, and then who pays? Insurance coverage is a huge question mark that needs to be addressed for this to be accessible.
So the breakthrough designation might help with reimbursement pathways.
It can, yes. That's one of the potential benefits of the program, helping make the case for coverage later on, but it's still a major barrier.
And then there are the ethical dimensions too, surely.
Absolutely. What if the decoding isn't perfect? Misinterpretations could happen. What about security? Could these devices be hacked? And the huge question of neural data privacy, who owns your brain data?
Serious considerations.
Very serious. There are initiatives starting up, like the IBCICC, launched in 2024, trying to get ahead of these ethical issues and develop standards. But it's something we absolutely need to keep talking about as the tech advances.
It's not just about speech either, is it? The potential seems broader.
Much broader. We're seeing BCIs aimed at restoring movement. You mentioned Onward Medical getting breakthrough designation in Feb 2024 for helping people with paralysis walk again using an ARC BCI system.
Incredible.
There are trials looking at BCIs for treating severe depression, even using ultrasound potentially. And further out, people talk about memory enhancement, controlling your smart home with thought.
Okay, let's maybe try and avoid the full Black Mirror scenarios for now.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But the potential applications are vast, even if some are still quite speculative.
So wrapping this up, it really comes back to the power of communication, doesn't it? The fundamental need to have a voice.
It really does. Losing that ability is so profoundly isolating. And the potential for BCIs to restore that connection, to give back that fundamental part of being human.
It feels like more than just technology.
I think so too. It feels like science working towards restoring dignity, connection, maybe even a core part of someone's identity, giving a voice back to those who've been silenced. It's pretty powerful stuff.